I haven't been making these because I went through a phase that I thought wasn't going to be a phase, where I got really down on myself for wasting so much time making YouTube videos instead of working on albums, and had all these epiphanies around how I stall out my own creative flow, when really maybe I've just lost a little bit of interest in, or a lot of interest in these albums from 2014 and 2015 that I really at one time really wanted to finish, and I still do. They just keep not coming to my forefront of consciousness, of, you know, mindset of being. So I'm gonna sit down. I'm not gonna worry about something contagious on a bench. I should perhaps, but so okay, fully sitting, embracing this moment. I'm in downtown Grand Haven. I'll show you, in like a back parking lot area. It's the area where that pretzel shop that I loved closed down. It still exists, but over in Spring Lake instead, where they already had a store, but like, you know. I've been fine mostly for like 2 months of this, but I know that that's privilege. I know that not everybody's fine. I guess what I mean is I've been emotionally fine, and I still have my job for the most part. I teach privately. I guess I don't want to be so hard on myself anymore for what I want to do. I don't need to make these as much as I used to, but I don't want to feel like I'm not allowed to. So, partly because I started talking a lot about, well, you know what? I'm not feeling like talking about that topic. I'm not going to bring it up. I just interrupted myself. I mean, there's a few people who watched these and told me they enjoyed watching these. So I guess I just need to know that as long as I feel like making them, that's okay too. And if I was starting to feel kind of OCD about it, I was, if I'm honest. I was starting to feel like every important thing I was processing I needed to capture in a video, just because sometimes they are really helpful and cathartic for me, but then that became kind of a weird, then if I made them, then I also felt like I needed to upload them, and sometimes they were dark and heavy and kind of almost too personal to just share blindly. I think the thing that started to bother me was the idea that somebody could give me that 1 minute of attention that we give to new things, and all they would see is something that doesn't really represent who I am. It doesn't represent my piano conservatory training, or it doesn't represent the way I write lyrics or the way lyrics move through me. Like, I just started feeling kind of self-conscious at that glimpse of what a quick glimpse is of somebody. And then I guess where I'm at today, or just as of a few days ago, is I can't really worry about that. That's like worrying. That means that I would stop my entire flow and only keep my best self as like the front cover of my life. Like, I haven't wanted to upload videos because the last couple ones that I uploaded I really like, and I want to know and control the information and know that those would be the first ones someone would see if they came to my channel. But it's like, so does that mean now forever I just won't ever upload anything again unless it's something I'm like deeply proud of? Many people would say, yes, Jessica, that's what you do. You only upload things you're deeply proud of, and that's how you become a person who has high quality content out in the world. But I can't. I could do that. I can do that. Hello. But I just think I don't want to do that. Or like, now what I'm learning is I want to do that, but I also feel very limited by that. Sometimes I feel a sense of freedom from that, I will say. There's been a sense of freedom that I can just spend my mornings journaling instead of making songs or YouTube videos. for the handful of people that do get something out of it, I guess I kind of took my power back and gave it to myself, because there's things I haven't been able to heal or process in this public journaling way. Like, and I needed to just pull my energy back into me in order to be able to process them. But I just am noticing I just have to be very careful of rules, because rules just always become something I want to defy. So it's like, I can't make a rule that I'm always going to share every bit of process on YouTube, because that's crazy. But I can't make a rule that I'm like never allowed to do it because it isn't putting my best foot forward. Like, I already learned that lesson. And pulled myself down off of YouTube on my Jessica Fogel channel back in 2000, 8, 9, 10. And those videos were getting like 1,000 views. And people, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, the videos that were better were the more curated ones where I spent like days and days making an official music video, albeit out of construction paper, but it still was like, that was more, and then instead, because I didn't have a way to upload music to this challenge I was doing, I think it was FALM, February Album Writing Month, I started using YouTube as a way to just put those raw songs somewhere. And in a way, like, my dad, who's the one who had noticed it, like, he had a good point. Like, it was kind of changing my YouTube channel. Like, if people had come to see it as a place where they could get these really cute, wacky music videos, which I had done 3 of them, and I really liked them, and they were getting lots of follows. And then I turned it into, like, 10 random, rambly things that you could barely hear. Like, there's a point, there's a truth to what my dad observed, which is that once I became very just like, whatever about it, that's just not going to have the same kind of effect for others. So hello, bye. Well, anyway, what I really wanted to do was come write a song in nature, but I guess I really wanted to ramble too. And I tried to take advice from another person one day about separating it. Put the rambles in one place and the songs in another place, so that people who just want to watch the songs can just watch the songs. But I could also just do a timestamp, and I could also just accept the fact that those people, no offense to them, but some of the people who've given me that advice haven't followed anything I've done for 2 years, even though they know me well and I see them. Why change your whole life around for the advice from somebody who doesn't even seem that into you anyway? And if they're implying that they would be more into you by you changing that thing about yourself, that's just speculation. They might not be. So you could change everything about yourself to make them happier. It's like a people-pleasing quality. Hi. And I've done it my whole life, so I guess what my advice to you is not to follow advice, because advice is coming from their systems and their concepts, and you have your own internal compass, you have your own internal guide, and somebody else's advice doesn't know the qualities that are inside of your internal guide. They don't know at all. And so they may give you advice based on their guide and believe it with 100% certainty, because if they were the one in your shoes, they would be right. But they're not the one in your shoes, and they don't have the guide that you have, and they don't have the experiences that you've had. And so because you've had the experiences that you've had, and you've had the wisdoms and the moments of light and clarity coming through you that you've had, that only you've had for you, and they've had theirs for them, only you know how that path would best unfold. Well, you and whatever it is you believe in that's bigger than you, the universe, dreams, God. I believe in God, but I also believe in the universe and dreams and collective unconscious. And if you don't grab the reins on who you are and what you want, if you don't grab the reins, if any time somebody says to you, you should do this, And something inside of you goes off like a little red flag alarm that's kind of saying like, but I don't want to do that. And if it feels like shamed, like it had a finger wagged at it, then as much as parents maybe don't agree with me, but the one that's right is the one that the subject is about. And I don't mean to come across like a defiant child in the world, but... And there are always exceptions, because like honestly, in 6th grade I interpreted the world very darkly because I had a brief burst of fame inside my school, inside multiple schools. I had school-wide concerts of my original songs put on, and a brief burst of what that 15 minutes of fame feels like. It feels like tons of attention and then tons of withdrawing of attention, and the withdrawing is deeply painful and I think easy to misinterpret. And so all it takes is people implying it or saying directly, we're kind of sick of listening to your songs, Jess. And they can imply it or they can say it directly, and it doesn't matter. If either way the message is clear, those might be times when an outside influence is deeply helpful, because it would have been nice if I had allowed somebody else's wisdom in my mind at that time. If they caught that I was internalizing it and saying I don't want to write songs anymore, or I don't want to share songs anymore, if they had caught that and said, wait, why? Why? Like, what changed? And instead of going dark as a songwriter for like 5-6 years, whatever that is, doing it a little bit again in high school during some pain, and then a little bit in college, but then having the same thing happen where people were really into it, full concert and conversations in my residence hall lobby, and then a slow withdrawing of interest, and or a fast one from some people. And like, if that's your experience, like, those might be moments where your guide can lead you astray, your inner guide. Because my inner guide thought, oh, nobody's actually interested in this. I just need to keep this private, keep this to myself. Or I just thought, like, nobody... The weird thing is, like, what's come true in my life is that it does feel, in my skin, I do have a pretty regular feeling of nobody's interested in this. And I've had to learn how to not say nobody, because I have some diehard... Oops! The wind is closing my yucca case. I have some diehard fans. I mean, I don't have them. They have me, perhaps. But there are people who are very, 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 like, disproportionately interested in everything I do musically. And even talkingly. And so I can't, in good conscience, say nobody's interested. Like, some people are interested. But if I look at ratios of the world, you know, maybe that's the thing where social media is spinning a lie for us, because part of the reason nobody's interested, or it feels like almost nobody's interested, you know, a tiny handful of people may be regularly interested, part of the reason it feels that way is because other people who are similar to this one particular person who comes to mind maybe haven't found my channel yet, or haven't found my songs yet. And that's where publicity comes in, and marketing comes in, or being on a label comes in, or some other random hack that can help people know who you are and that you exist and that your work is out there for them to find and for them to use if it helps them heal. Because I know for a fact throughout my whole life, even while changing genres, you know, quirky, cabaret-ish sounding stuff in Chicago and ballads and things, and then also this more like freak folk kind of thing that I've been into much more since being in Michigan. Well, I was always into it, but it's like flowing through my veins now, but I was always into it when I was in Chicago. I didn't know why my music didn't sound like that, because it's what I loved the most. But anyway, probably because I was still shedding a lot of imitation. I had a lot of thoughts in my head that said you had to have an album that had lots of variety on it, and that you couldn't ever sound like yourself. I had so many rules in my head when I was younger. So a lot of my music under Jessica Fogel is either imitative or like me still finding my voice and finding my way. And like, yeah, I know my voice kind of leveled out to something not everybody loves as much. I still get people telling me, not very many, but some used to tell me very directly, like they wished I wrote more like I did when I lived in Chicago, but I don't. Like, that's really unintentionally rude of you to say. But like, I don't know why tastes change. I don't know why writing changes. Like, maybe this is a phase. Everything's a phase. Like, we're all gonna die. Not to make that sad or scary, as I'm sitting on a bench that could have... We're not gonna get into COVID. Not right now. Anyway, so I'm sharing this video I was on a point, and then the point got lost. Oh yeah, elementary school, middle school, high school, following your own inner compass. So maybe that's the only time that having an outside voice can be useful. If an outside voice notices, like, hey, I don't think you're on your compass right now. I think you're in your fear. I think you're in your sadness. I think you're experiencing grief symptoms. That you, little 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grader, had a really burst of intensity within your social group where everyone was like semi-worshiping you, and then they all withdrew it and or started talking about you negatively, and you had to learn how to then fit into those circles without displaying who you actually were. Whereas when you were younger, before that happened, you could fit in those circles without displaying who you actually were, without them knowing that you were holding back who you actually were. Like, once it became clear that who you actually were was a thing that they briefly wanted and then didn't want anymore at sleepovers, at parties, or whatever, and you were supposed to hold it back and put all that aside, like, that's when it becomes painful, because people know who you are and they just don't want that part of you. And if I had known how to move aside and aside and aside and aside and become part of the misfits and the freaks and the, you know, I say freaks with love. I don't like the term freak. I don't like freak folk as a term, but it just happens to be the one that's what people call it, like Joanna Newsom or even Sufjan Stevens in a way, because he's got all these like Catholic songs, but he's also like indie, cool, weird, and singing about space. So like, I don't think it's bad to just move further and further in the direction of misfits and just kind of find the people who do resonate with you. Don't get so preoccupied with the ones that don't. Hi, birdie. I don't know. That's what I wish someone had said to me when I was younger. I'm not saying that I was good at saying it to myself. Well, here we go, singing. No. stars in your mind that feels heavy like wisdom. You're so wise, you are wise, I am wise, we are wise, but we are still tiny little beings of light. Here, here, here. That's okay. We're just here. We're just here. Well, I have to go teach some lessons, but just thought I should check in. Especially because I had like videos from early quarantine. I mean, I know I uploaded some of them, but I had other ones I wanted to upload, but they all got lost in that computer crash. And I've honestly just been kind of grieving. Like, it's hard to make things and lose them when you didn't want to lose them. When you wanted to throw them away and thought they were garbage and didn't reflect the best of you, that's okay. Then losing things feels kind of freeing. But I had at least one in there that I felt precious about that I hadn't uploaded because of beginning to feel some of these feelings, and these feelings of like, is this too much? Is this too annoying? Is this not putting my best foot forward? Am I just rambling? Am I just getting OCD about sharing literally everything I think and every feeling I have? And is it overwhelming the people I love? Is it overwhelming people who don't even know me but maybe would love me? It's just a lot. It's a lot to consider, and maybe I don't need to consider it. Maybe I just need to do what I feel each day and not have a plan or an agenda about it, and just let it unfold however it unfolds. Like, I think I started to get into some of the thoughts about, like, you know, those like 7 videos I have in a playlist that say like how to become your authentic self. Well, I always meant to do edited versions of those someday so that it became like a thing that you could watch and like get the quick snippets. And my friend Josie even said she would maybe edit it someday, but it's like I can't put that kind of work on others. It's just too weird. And so the only way that series could be useful to you is if you want to watch me ramble for 4 hours and like cry and feel things. And it's like, it's hard for me to feel that has, I hate to say it, but like commercial value in the world. Because if something doesn't have commercial value, then I don't see any way that 1 million people who might need it could find it. And maybe that's the part that's confusing. Like, why does it matter if 1 million people find it? Why doesn't it feel okay to me if just 1 or 5 or 10 or 20 do? And I think that comes back to, you know, being in piano competitions from a young age, and maybe all those school-wide concerts of my originals, feeling like that felt very natural for me. And like whatever happened to sabotage it, it then kept happening. You know, it happened in elementary school, it happened in middle school, it didn't happen in high school, but I was being pretty closeted, but it happened again in college. I even went to a college because of a Bachelor of Arts in Songwriting degree, and so I just feel like it happened much of my life, that sort of standing out. And maybe in some weird spiritual dimension, I'm the one shutting it down. I think every time I've stood out, you attract a lot of negativity too, and you attract a lot of work. I had kids in 7th grade, well, I was a kid too, asking me to write songs for, you know, for their friends or other stuff like that. And it's just like a very strange thing to be like commissioned to write songs for other people's feelings. And I don't know, there are a lot of strange things that maybe weren't the right match for me to keep staying so public about it. Or maybe there just isn't a shelf life for that in middle school. I have no idea. I know middle schoolers nowadays, and man, do they not want to shine as brightly as they actually do, as much as their elementary school self did. Shining brightly in middle school is like making yourself a target. Like, it's not wise. I've never met a middle schooler that's like, yeah, I'm going to shine my brightest so that 90% of people can spew hateful crap at me. It's not. And it really comes down to like friend groups. I don't think they care about the bigger school at large. They care about how it comes off in their friend group. So middle school's tough, and high school too. And I started to find my way again in high school by just being very one-on-one with friends and very introverted about my songs. And I had like a fan club of 2 people when I was in high school, now that I think about it. Matt and Kristen. But then even one of them later, I mean, one I moved away from, and the other one told me to stop, if we could stop listening to my new songs every time I visited, like once every 3 months when we were in college, and message loud and clear, you know, like, oh, I'm burdening people, I'm annoying people. Whereas when I was young, I had like my friend Heather McCarthy from Boston. She came over and we always made harmonies on the songs. Like, it was something we did together. And I had a cousin and a neighbor, Julie, and my cousin Alicia, and like they were in bands with me. And like, yeah, I'm the one who wrote the songs, but they would learn the songs and sing and dance them with me. And maybe that was the flaw, is that as I got older, I wanted to share the songs with people, but I didn't really know what to give them to do. Like, unless they were a singer and wanted to like harmonize or were an instrumentalist, I ended up not crossing those paths. So it's like I wanted to share my songs and I wanted to be connected to people, but I don't know. There's no real good way to reciprocate it if they're not also writing songs, but if they were, I would have listened to them, you know. So I don't know. Basically, being a songwriter turned into one giant social problem. So that's probably where a lot of my insecurities come from, and where a lot of my hot and cold nature was sharing a lot and then getting really closeted and shy about it comes from. Like, I feel like I hid this part of myself for as much of my life that I've also shared it. So that's where some of these bursts come from, of like, I'm gonna really be me, and then like, maybe being me is off-putting. And it only takes you so far to like know the history of things. At a certain point, you just have to drop the story and like decide, okay, but now I'm gonna do this, or now I'm gonna do that. So, and I know we're in the midst of a global pandemic, so I'm not being too hard on myself for having had, and I lost all those files. So honestly, both things combined kind of made me rethink my approach. But if I'm honest, in late March, at the beginning of quarantine, that was the best weekend that I had had. Of all of it was writing songs on our front porch on a Friday, going to the beach and staying in my car on a Saturday and writing songs. And then I think I wrote more songs on that Sunday, and then uploading them to YouTube and just kind of letting myself be this exposed and process rambles and songs. And some of those turned into ones that I shared, one on a compilation with hits, some of them on my Bandcamp, like as singles, even though they're just ukulele songs in my car. Or I guess some were piano songs that I wrote after I got back, or before. I don't know, whatever. Sometimes when I ramble, though, I do stress myself out. So I'm going to go because I have to go teach a piano lesson and songwriting lesson. She's a songwriting student, too, and she's really great. All right. Bye.